Three, two, one. And we are supposedly rolling. Well, welcome to Shiftless, everyone. We're pretty darn excited. We told you that we would start bringing in some experts to clear up the fuzziness that maybe Brad and I develop with each other. And on board and joining us today is Alex Gay from A Ride with GPS, who's going to help bring us up to speed on mapping, GPS, routing functionality, and any other thing that might come into the mix. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Thank you, Kevin.
And we, as always, we have Brad Green. Brad, say hello to everyone.
What's going on?
This is new to our format here, so I apologize. Our rhythm's going to be a little bit off. We're going to find it with this 3-person interview, but we definitely are very excited to have Ride with GPS on board with us to help fill in some of the blanks. And this is a day in, day out tool for me. Definitely Ride with GPS. I'm a huge Ride with GPS fan myself, but just navigation tools, GPS functionality, and things like that. And I know over the years, there's a lot of stuff that I've made some assumptions about, or what was true maybe 10 years ago that I still, in my head, well, that's the way I understood it then. Maybe things have changed. So we're hoping that anything along those lines, Alex, can help clear things up for us. First off, Alex, please do introduce yourself. What is your role with Ride with GPS currently?
We need your origin story.
My origin story. Right now, my role is the relationship manager. So I work with our clubs and tour operators and event operators, tourism bureaus, bike shops, and other websites that use our software. So, for example, the Spinistry uses a club account with us and has for a number of years. And so I work with them, making sure that the admins and leaders of those accounts know how to use the tools and then communicate everything to their members. I started here in early 2018, where I was just support on the support team, answering questions from users about using the route planner and how to get routes onto their Garmin or Wahoo, or subscription issues. And really, it's a place that many of our employees who aren't developers start in the company. So it gives everyone a good perspective of how users use our software and get familiar with it. Over time, I've started to do more and more things with clubs and events, and now that's been my full-time role for about 3 years.
Okay, so you're not a spring chicken. You do have some skins on the wall in the industry and with the company. That's good to hear. You had mentioned the other people that Ride with GPS and their career track and how that works. How big a company is Ride with GPS? How many employees do you have? How long have you been around in the space and things like that?
Mm-hmm. So today, early April 2023, we have, I think, 31 people working here in total, and that includes our 2 co-founders, Zach Ham and Colin King, who started the company back in 2006, as a college project when they were both in school. And since then, it's grown to very slowly to where we are now. Starting off with just the route planner on our website, and being able to export routes to your Garmin or print paper cue sheets, and now all the way up to having, the mobile app for a number of years now, but then also a much, much more robust route planner with a lot more tools than what was offered 15 years ago.
Is Ride with GPS, is it still a standalone company under the umbrella of those founders, or has it been absorbed by somebody else, or how is that structured these days?
Yeah, it's still fully owned by Zach and Colin, and Zach's our CEO, Colin's the CTO, and we still continue to be fully funded by our users, whether through individual subscriptions or through club accounts and other organization accounts. So we don't sell any data. We don't take investment from any outside sources other than our users who are, paying us a couple dollars a month or, a little bit more per year. And then we don't run any ads, whether you're free or paid. And so I think it's a pretty non-traditional model for most software companies. And I think that's lended to our stability, but also the slow growth we've had. But I think you ask anyone that works here, that growth is appreciated because we can take our time with thinking about what's the next move and being careful about what we do and why we're doing it, and listening to our users about what they want to see and making sure that their voices are heard when we're thinking about the next product, and making it a good, sustainable place to work.
I think it's commendable to the path that you guys have stayed, like not getting funded by anybody else, and the organic growth is. I think if it's sustainable, it's a good way to go. That way, you don't grow too fast and overlook stuff and get beyond what you're capable of, and But I had a question: Are the majority of the people that are there on staff, are they cyclists? I mean, this was a cycle.
Everyone is.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
It's pretty firmly established in a job posting that this is a job. This is a job for someone who rides bikes and is passionate about riding bikes. So
yeah,
everyone here rides bikes and it likes to, when someone gets a new bike, ask them questions or, huddle over it if we're in person together. Next week, we're having our spring summit where we'll go on a group ride here in Portland where about 2/3 of us live, and we'll ride during the day and then have some other activities the rest of the day, and then the following day we'll have an all hands meeting. And so it's all, everyone will go on the ride, and it's really special to be able to work here where everyone likes to ride bikes and is passionate about it.
Very cool. That's what I assumed. But and the other question I had was, is Ride with GPS used exclusively by cyclists, or do you find like motorcyclists using it as well?
Yeah, a lot of things other than bikes.
Yeah.
I think, anyone who needs very specific navigation, they all have pretty similar needs, whether you're a cyclist or on a motorcycle, or you're a horseback rider, or you go on car rallies. And Zach and Cullen, before they started riding bicycles, they rode motorcycles, and they still do. And a number of our employees still ride motorcycles, but it all started creating routes for them to go ride motorcycles in the Willamette Valley here in Oregon. And then as they both got bikes and got into riding bikes more, and they saw that, this could be a good opportunity to create tools for cyclists as well as motorcyclists. And so now, still lots of people using us for motorcycle riding. The endurance horseback riding world is pretty big on Ride with GPS too.
Endurance horseback riding is not a term I've ever heard. But I guess
that one's new to me as well.
Yeah. Think about riding a horse for 50 plus miles. You need, and they're going on rougher terrain than you can imagine, like that you can ride on.
You're talking about a multi-day ride?
Perhaps a multi-day ride. I think most of the people that I hear from are just doing single-day rides, but full day riding, and the routes that they create are pretty unique, and a lot of the times they're just traversing terrain where there's not trails. It's just open space, just really, really rough looking terrain. But then other applications of using navigation would be dump trucks and snow plows, because those are very unique routes that you couldn't plot in other route planners.
I guess, Kevin, did you tell him like what the basis, what the start of all this was? Our curiosity or our ignorance, if you will, of how elevation is calculated.
Yeah, I did point Alex to that episode. Did you have a chance to hear those segments by chance?
Yeah, I did. And
So just for a quick refresher for those that may not have heard that first episode, the point of conversation that Brad and I were having was essentially, when you're doing a cycling route, how is elevation calculated for the ground that you cover? Is that correct, Brad?
Yeah.
Alex, if you have any enlightenment for us, we're all ears at the moment.
yeah, I think if I remember right, what you spoke to in that episode was pretty good. Where when you're creating a route, we're pulling from a data set that is elevation scans of the Earth. Shuttle Radar Topography Mission, SRTM, is, if you wanted to look it up, where the space shuttle scanned the Earth with a radar and plotted the North America, in that case, with elevation, with points. And there's points every maybe 50 meters. I could look this up, where that's what we know is the elevation, an estimate of the elevation. But then the problem is, when you are creating a route, we don't know what's in between those 2 points. So while 2 points might be at the same height above sea level, maybe there's a giant climb or a dip between. And so even though those 2 points that we plot that are connected to one another, it would look flat, what's in between is not really true. And so that there's that grid that covers the US is the most accurate part of our data set. The other parts of the world didn't get that scan, to my knowledge, but they do have other data sets that we'll pull from that might not have, that might be less granular. And then there's issues like when you go towards the poles, then the data can get a little more fuzzy, but that's pretty rare. You got to get pretty far north or south for that to be the case. There's always been, this ongoing, dilemma of, getting accurate elevation. The best way to get elevation is to ride the route, because when you're recording on your Wahoo or your Garmin or your phone, all of those devices, they have a barometric sensor in them. So that is a pretty accurate way to get elevation. So if you can ride that route, you're going to see a much more accurate representation of what that elevation is, because you have this barometric sensor in your device. And so if you really needed to know and tell other people what the elevation is, go ride it first.
Yeah. Do you guys
Yeah.
extract that information afterwards? Like if somebody wrote a section that had never been ridden before, and you guys are just through your simulations and stuff are just estimating the elevation, is there a way for you guys to extract that information back out from a proven route at that point?
Not right now.
No. Okay. Do you guys use
That would be nice.
Right now, is that a
a
potential?
little foreshadowing there?
That would take a lot of data.
Yeah.
It would take a lot of knowing what is what.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
Where would you guys fall in relation to the industry, I guess, as far as acceptance and uptake by the users?
As compared to other platforms like Strava or Komoot or Gaia or others like
or
that.
whatever else is out
I've literally
there.
only
I
heard
think
of Strava. You said two other names
Oh.
I'm not even familiar with.
Yeah, I think it depends where you are.
Uh,
In the U.S. and in North America, I think we're pretty well established.
Mhm.
when you are going on a group ride or you go to an event, people ask, where's the Ride with GPS link? So I can get it onto my device, or I can navigate it on my GPS. Whereas in Europe, Komoot is big as far as a route planning service. But then globally, Strava is massive. But I think if you ask most people, they'll look to Strava more as a social platform than a planning platform. Not that they don't have a route planner. Theirs is a paid feature, whereas ours is free, but with some paid upgrades. So Gaia is another one that's, I think, pretty broad in terms of what activities it features, but certainly more like rugged backcountry exploring. Not that we don't have a place in that world, but where we mostly focus on cycling, they're focusing on many activity types. Yeah, I think in the U.S. we're pretty high up, the U.S. and the rest of North America, but that's a goal for as we grow. How do we find our place in Europe and in the rest of the world?
Something I just want to touch on real quick before I forget, and I just want to make sure anyone that's listening to this is fully cognizant of it. This is we're not. This isn't a commercial for Ride with GPS. I'm a big fan of their products. I've been using them for years, and I pay full price. They're not giving Club Spinistry a deal, or quite frankly, I think their pricing is fantastic. So there's no need for a discount along those. Now that said, there's things I would like to see better from Ride with GPS, but over the years, you guys have done a fantastic job of evolving and adding features. And if things weren't ideal, and I'm going to hit you hard with one of them before the end. Don't let me forget that,
Okay.
Brad. Remind me to whip his ass over this feature.
Are you
okay?
talking?
But we'll talk about that.
You talking about the fact that you can upload your pickleball matches to Strava now, and you can't to Ride with GPS?
No, that's not where I was going with that. I just want to make it crystal clear to everybody. We invited Ride with GPS here as true industry experts, and that's why they're here. And I apologize. I stepped all over.
No, it's
Brad.
okay.
Do you remember where you were about
No,
to go?
I was going to make the pickleball comment, but anyways, we still haven't answered the question though. Like how, I think my confusion on the elevation aspect is it a total of gain and loss, or is there a gain minus the loss to give you your overall gain, or is it strictly just gain and elevation? I don't know if I asked that correctly, but.
Okay, I understand. So if you're looking at a ride, and I can look at one right now, we'll show ascent and descent. And so each of those numbers is independent. So they're each being calculated. One, we're adding up when you're going uphill for the ascent, and then we'll add a different number altogether for the descent.
Okay. So it's just total elevation gain.
Yeah, total elevation
Okay.
gain.
Okay,
Sorry.
all good there.
Sorry.
No,
It's a
nothing to be sorry about.
it's a
That's
good
why
thing I'm pretty.
you touched on some of the other companies out there. I guess it's safe to say some are competitors, but also there's a lot that do some of the same stuff you guys do, but have different focuses. And you are the same way. Your focuses are particularly being cycling centric. I think that's kind of a unique spot. And being a cycling centric business person myself, it's definitely a niche industry. Organic growth is never going to be huge in the cycling fields I don't think for anyone. But that's still ultimately a good thing. Are there common misperception, I think is a better way to put it, of what Ride with GPS does, or how it does it, or how it's meant to be used, or how people use it, that maybe doesn't really align with what you have in mind? in the maybe general public or people newer to the platform?
People, I think, certainly mistake us for Strava, where they think that they can do something on Ride with GPS and it instantly appears on Strava, or that it's not showing up in their feed or for on their Strava feed. But I think people get hung up about seeing the route online and then not knowing what to do after that. Do they know that they can put this on their phone or put this on their Wahoo or their Garmin pretty easily if they sit down and click a few buttons to get it all set up.
Right.
And so that's always a challenge, where how do we get that information communicated that they know that this can happen? Because a lot of the ways that people discover us are through embedded maps on websites. And that's how I found out about us on Bike Portland, our local bike news website, before I started working here. And but yeah, you go look at bikepacking.com and see these incredible embeds from routes that people have created on Ride with GPS. They're embedded on that website. Then what? And that's, I think, the people not knowing how that can happen, but also knowing that all the vast functionality that is available to them. You'll hear from users, longtime users, "Oh, I didn't know that you could do this thing," or "I didn't know you had this feature."
That was one of my questions is, are there any major underutilized tools that you guys offer, that people, like you're saying, people reference and go, "Man, I've been using Ride with GPS for 5 years and I didn't even know I could do X."
Yeah, right click in the route planner. It's something that's been around for over 2 years, I think, and never really talked about it. There's no tooltip on the screen that says, "Hey, did you know you can right click?" And not until this past December did we really reveal it, in an email where we added some new functionality to it. But yeah, it's, for me, has made route planning a lot easier because it doesn't make you move your mouse around as much, go into the sidebar to add or remove control points or custom cues or points of interest. But also, what I really like about it is that you can show Street View from right-clicking. So you can right-click anywhere on the map that has Street View information, and then it'll pull that up rather than having to go and pull the Street View icon from the bottom right and drop it in place. I think it's a lot more smooth with using right-click. But then, yeah, the inspect feature within right-click is one of my more favorite things too. Kevin, you're making a face.
I just found right click on the route.
This is the whole reason I asked this question.
So inspect in the in the route planner by right clicking. You can click on any spot and it'll pull up loads of public routes or even your own rides and routes that you can pull into the route planner and make your own by changing the start or cutting up into pieces, or just discovering where people have ridden. I think if you're looking somewhere really remote, you can right click and see what rides people have done. Maybe there's a really faint piece of heat map. You can right click and see who did this and when, and find that ride they took. So that's a pretty helpful feature if you're trying to find some dirty water to filter.
Good point. You touched on some. Thank you for the reminder. This was something I thought about asking a while back, and I forgot when I was putting my notes together. Heat map density. How is that determined? And well, I'm assuming that might be another feature that people aren't even utilizing as much as they could on Ride with GPS. The heat map functionality on Ride with GPS is great, in my opinion. But what determines the density of the line or the color changes of the line, or how does that work?
It scales based on, I think, where you are. So if you're somewhere where there's less overall heat map, it might be amplified some. Whereas if it's really dense, like in a city, it's going to try and be a little more balanced.
If I'm seeing a dark red line in the heart of Portland, it may not directly coincide with a dark red line in the Mount Hood National Forest. Then,
yeah,
am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah. But
okay,
you'll still know that dark red line in Mount Hood National Forest is probably a good place to ride, just like that.
Comparatively popular in that specific geolocation.
When you get bored sometime, Kevin, look at the heat map coming out of my garage.
From a business standpoint, where's your ideal growth? Is it people that are, subscribing to the monthly, what is it, premium level with the app features and things like that? Is it the club accounts? Is it, and I apologize, I don't even know what all of your revenue streams are at the moment. And that is one thing, quick tangent, I do lose track as a manager of a club account of where my subscription features end and free features begin. So there's lots of times I assumed, just go to Ride with GPS and do that. And they go, I can't do that. So basically, as a club account, I have access to almost everything, is my understanding. But I do recognize that there's plenty of people that just on an individual basis subscribe to the app. And are there other revenue streams that I'm not cognizant of that you guys are focusing on right now as well?
Well, the focus right now is on the individual user side. That's where most of our development is being pointed towards, with updating a new find page on our website. Last year we updated the find page on the app, and now it's called Explore, and it's more map focused. And so you can expect a more map focused find page on the website, and that's certainly a consumer view, a user view of the website, and that's where most development resources are going to the user side in general, compared to the club account or other things that we offer. If you didn't see the new route map view for Spinistry, where you can see all of the Spinistry's routes on one page, that is something that we did recently do for clubs and other tour operators and events, that account. Yeah. So now we'll move back towards the user side of things.
Do most of your premium subscribers, are they doing it for the app and route navigation functionality, or additional route creation, or a mix of all of it?
A mix of both. We offer 2 different paid individual levels, and one, basic, is the features are focused on mobile. So being able to download routes offline, navigate them with voice navigation, use live logging, use the mobile route planner, whereas premium is more focused towards the website. So planning routes on the website, which is a much more robust route planner compared to on the mobile app. And so premium is more of that creator and route planner type, versus mobile app basic subscription is more of the consumer, finding other people's routes and using those.
Now, I told you I was gonna beat you up over one thing here, but I'll take it a slightly different route. As opposed to a criticism, I'm going to ask for illumination on how a feature works, if that's fair. One of the biggest things we come across, most of our routes are gravel oriented, and So last year, you guys came out with the road surface indicator sort of thing. And my understanding is that in some parts of the country, it's actually exceptional data and very reliable. In around here in Texas, and I know New Mexico, I run into it as well. The data is not even close. It's actually somewhat burdensome because I have people that are pestering me all the time. Why are you, why are we signing up for an event that's only 10% gravel? Well, it's not 10% gravel. That's just what that. How is that information derived? How do you guys say this is X% gravel versus paved?
Yeah, we pulled that information from OpenStreetMaps, and so OpenStreetMaps is the Wikipedia for maps, where anyone can go on and say that there's a route here. This is the speed limit. This is the type of road it is, whether it's residential or anything else. But there's also an option to indicate surface type, and that's what we pull from. And unfortunately, only about 20% of streets or roads or paths in OpenStreetMaps have surface information. And so the rest of it, we have to make an educated guess based on other clues in the data from OpenStreetMaps about what it might be. And so we're not always right.
I appreciate that, and I don't want to be the type of person to issue a criticism, but not offer maybe not a solution, but at least some ways to make it better. Somewhat along those lines, it does sound like maybe it's more, in some ways more of a question for OSM. In the past, I have updated OSM data, and temporarily it was correct, and then it wasn't for whatever reasons. My guess is they're importing state data somewhere that overrides mine, but that's a guess. I don't know. My request, at least as an event promoter that uses Ride with GPS, and maybe there's already a way to do it that I'm missing out on or haven't found how to use correctly, but if there's a way for me to just completely suppress that surface data functionality on routes I create, not where I hide it temporarily or when it's first, where it's not retrieved at all. Is there a way to do that, or is that something we might be able to look into throwing into the idea pool or something like that?
Mm-hmm. So now in the route planner, there is an option to display or not display surfaces under settings.
It's still, last time I tried that, when I create the route, it does, but that's for my own usage. Mm-hmm. When other people bring up whatever their setting is, it defaults to them being able to see that. At least that's the way it worked months ago. It may have changed since then.
Yeah, I think it would remain the same. You do have the means to edit the surface type as we display it using the elevation profile. Are you familiar with that?
I can edit. No, I am not.
So if you are in the route planner, you can select the length of the route using the elevation profile, clicking and dragging. And then on the right, there's a button that says change surface.
Oh, very nice.
If you know what that surface is, you can change it from paved to unpaved or vice versa.
This is why we have you here, Alex. Awesome. I'm assuming this only works for this route that I create, though. It doesn't apply that to future times that road may be mapped. Is that
right? It's just this individual route.
Okay, that's an awesome feature. Excellent. Thank you.
Welcome.
You have anything, Brad? Anything that's
well, I was going to ask a couple of just random questions. You guys, it sounds like you guys are pulling a lot from actual data, but when I wrote this down earlier just to give you like how my brain works, you were talking about how if you only have a reference point from, say 3 miles away and you only have two spots and you don't know what lies in between. Are you guys utilizing AI at all at this point? Because it seems like artificial intelligence is used across the board in so many different aspects of all kinds of things.
Nothing in the route planner right now, and I know it's on a lot of people's minds here and how it will factor into what we do.
Route planning functionality, when I drop a point and just have Ride with GPS automatically calculate a route for me. Correct me if I'm wrong, like if I have bike paths displayed, it will typically incorporate things like that when it's available, but if I don't have it displayed, it just uses normal surface streets. Is that correct, or is that outside of your knowledge at the moment?
No, in the route planner, there's a drop down. It's called routing, and you can choose between cycling, walking, or driving. And if you're selected to cycling, it doesn't matter what map style you're in. We're going to put you on what is preferred for being on a bike, whether that's because it has a bike path or a bike lane, or it's a shared street, or we have popularity information that says that people ride bikes here. And so that's how we decide where to put you. And so that information comes from OpenStreetMaps because it has bike infrastructure information in that data. And that's the case if you're using one of the OpenStreetMap based maps, which if you're in the route planner and you click the map drop down, there's different options. And so starting at our RWGPS map style, and beneath that, those are all OpenStreetMaps, and those will use OpenStreetMaps routing. Above those options, there's a map, terrain, satellite, and hybrid. Those all come from Google Maps, and those will have their own cycling-based routing that may be a little different than what OpenStreetMaps provides to us. Okay. But it doesn't matter if you have cycling paths toggled on, or if you're in, OSM cycle map style, you're still going to be put onto, bike preferred paths or roads.
But it does sound like actually like you were talking about, and maybe I misheard you. You route based on popularity to some extent, or usage to some extent. Now, do you mean that specifically from Ride with GPS users, or is that part of that OSM data set?
Our users, and this would be the case of using one of the OpenStreetMap styles, not Google. Google's routing is their own, and they tune it to their liking, whereas the OpenStreetMap routing we're able to tune to our liking based on what sort of roads or paths that we want to prefer, but then also popularity based on what our users are doing. So if you pull up Heat Map and you create a route in OpenStreetMaps with an OpenStreetMap style map, then it might look pretty similar to that heavy red line. And so in that case, we're able to, we have control of the result based on popularity and other bike information available from OpenStreetMaps.
That's actually a really good clarification for me there. My assumption was just that you were using the same logic regardless of the base map. So what you're saying is if we're using the Google base map, it defaults to Google preferences, correct? Okay.
Right.
For those not watching at home, Alex is shaking his head yes. Okay, excellent. That's good clarification.
Yeah,
man, I'm liking this, Brad.
It's amazing what happens when you listen to someone that knows what they're talking about.
The app itself, I'm a huge user of the Ride with GPS app when I'm scouting routes, and obviously when I build the routes. But I'll go out in the truck and scout all of my routes, and I use the Ride with GPS app for my navigation because it works like a car GPS in that it says turn right in half a mile or whatever, and as soon as you make the right hand turn, turn left in 3/4 of a mile, and it gives you that prompt ahead of time. That aspect, the navigation app, I see as fantastic. Is there new stuff coming to that to be on the lookout for, or is that kind of generally speaking where it is, and we're just going to be enhancing existing features going forward,
As far as navigation features in the app,
or whatever else? I don't know.
well, what's being worked on right now would be more map views of your stuff. So think about, you've got your long list of routes or rides that you've recorded. We're going to be putting all of those on a map in the app for you to view. And so last year we released route map views or ride map views for your personal account on the website. And so similar views will be available on the app, where you can pull up your big map of rides you've been on, see a heat map of those rides, and then try and remember, oh, when did I go here? Press and hold on that heat on the map, and we'll show all of the rides that you've passed through that point. And then you can, either turn that into a route or share it to a friend and have reference to it visually rather than just as a long list. That's the next thing that should be out sort of soon.
Okay, that touches on a good point, at least from a common question from cyclists. Back in the day, anyway, it was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. A dedicated bike computer, Garmin, Wahoo, or whatever, GPS functionality and accuracy was tremendously better than what was available on most phones at the time. Is that still the case, or is technology kept up to where basically any phone for GPS accuracy purposes is as good as a standalone device? Or what are y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think phones are a great way to not worry about having all your devices charged. You just have to worry about the one. And GPS is free and unlimited to anyone on any phone, and so you can not need to have a $600 Garmin on your handlebars. You can just use your phone that you probably already carry with you in your pocket everywhere. And as far as the accuracy, it's just as accurate. I think what most people's hangups are around battery life, or strapping your your phone, your texting machine to your handlebars. But I've done some pretty long rides with my phone strapped to my handlebars and taken a spill or two, and with the right case and mount, it's been good for me. Like I've had great success with just using our app to navigate.
The battery life.
Mm-hmm.
Airplane mode, obviously, for those that may not be up to speed with it, is definitely a way to help preserve battery life, and downloading the route ahead of time. Now, anybody that has access to the navigation app, they're able to download the routes for offline, or is that a higher level service there?
Yeah, navigation and offline maps are the same.
Okay,
level.
so if you have navigation capability, you have offline maps.
Yep.
One of the things I typically recommend, because a lot of our rides are really long, a lot of our routes are really long, so battery life on a phone is definitely an issue. Mm-hmm. Particularly if you're trying to watch the map, then you're leaving the screen on all the time. But like I said, the way I use it, I just use the audio prompts, and I recommend folks just turn on the audio prompts. Maybe you have, the bone conducting headphones, or it's loud enough where you can hear it, or whatever, and the screen's off. And if you do airplane mode and the maps are downloaded offline, you can get very long navigation life out of the phone at that point. You had touched on Gaia GPS earlier as one of the other people in the industry. Do you guys see them as a competitor, or you're two different fruits in the same basket, so to speak?
I think two different fruits in the same basket, but we do a lot of similar things as far as offering route creation and offline maps. But I think they're, like I said, mentioned earlier, they're a little more broad in what types of activities they focus on, a little more backcountry focused, but there's certainly cyclists that use them. I think if you asked a Gaia user, they would tell you that it's not the only thing they use.
I would definitely agree with that. Is there a potential for Ride with GPS maybe to incorporate other base maps that maybe not the full like Gaia suite, but maybe some of this other stuff, or are you guys kind of static with the mapping information that you have for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest strong points of Gaia is the incredible amount of base maps and overlays that they offer, and something that I always look to see what they have, because I want them in Ride with GPS too. And there's certainly is always talk about how we can integrate that more, or have more options about snow layers or wildfires or cell coverage or just more map styles. It's just I think it can be expensive, it can be time consuming, it can be figuring out what people really want, but at least internally, we all like to stare at maps all day, and wouldn't it be nice if we could know that there's snow at the top of Larch Mountain without having to go onto the Google group and ask of our local adventure cycling group, OMTM, what's the status of this? Well, we could just pull up the map layer. So hopefully in time we'll have more.
Well, I just wanted to ask Alex a cycling question, because he was talking about his rides and going on long rides with his phone mounted to his bars and stuff. What kind of riding do you typically do there in Portland?
All sorts, really. Oregon is a very geographically diverse place, where here in Portland it's a valley and flanked by the Cascade Range to the east, and then the Coast Range to the west, where both of those places in the summertime are prime riding areas. And that's a lot of gravel, so day ride gravel. But then a little north and east is the gorge, where it's in the rain shadow, and so it's dry almost year round. It just might be a bit cold and windy in the wintertime, but you can do some fantastic gravel riding out there. Mountain biking, there's some, nothing that you can really ride to from Portland. It's all some drive away. Some popular places out west, like Sandy Ridge, Post Canyon, Coyote Wall, and then Stub Stewart to the west are all some more popular places that are about an hour away. And then just lots of road riding too. So Portland is by area, pretty small city. And so you can get on the road for 45 minutes in any direction. You're getting out into open land, a lot of agriculture, or forest land. So it's a pretty unique place to be able to, do all sorts of riding. And so if you, I think, really one of the best places if you want to get away is to go to Central Oregon, like to Bend, where there's unlimited mountain biking out your front door. It's a pretty fantastic place to, in the summertime especially, be able to, be on trails in a few minutes and barely have to touch pavement.
Did you have any questions for us, Alex, or anything that you wanted to share about Ride with GPS that people may not be aware of or anything like that?
I'll just say we covered a lot. There's a vast resource of help documentation on our website if you ever want to dig in more. We have a fantastic support team who can help you out 7 days a week. info@ridewithgps.com.
Definitely appreciate that, Alex. And I can definitely vouch for the value of their customer service. I regularly have people reach out to me since I send so many routes out, and we offer access to the app with our club account and things like that. Lots of very technical questions that are sent my way, and I always point them to that info at Ride with GPS. And I never hear back from those people. That means they got the answer they were looking for. Appreciate all the time you've given us today, Alex. You definitely shine the light on some things that are going to be beneficial to me going forward. And I'm sure anyone listening to that picked up some really good information as well. Bradley, anything else before we let Alex go back to work in his real job?
I appreciate your time, Alex. Very informative. Very informative. Have a lovely Portland day.
You're welcome, Brad. Thank you. Yeah.
All in all, I mean, I was completely underprepared to bring an expert on. I had all sorts of plans to do some research and have a great list of questions, but life.